Okay. All right. Tracy Ann, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to the Elections Committee for setting up this forum, and thank you to everyone for coming to the forum. I realize that we all have busy schedules, and I'm honored that you made time for us to hear what we both have to say. I would like to start off by expressing my sympathy to Farron for her mother's health difficulties. Her family is in my prayers, and I am terribly sorry that she has to endure criticism about her leadership of the union during a personally difficult time. In fact, I understand this more than anyone realizes because I had a member of my own immediate family rush to the hospital twice over the last 9 days and was in the hospital on Friday. So I can definitely sympathize. I can also sympathize because she was forced to be public about this personal family health matter, as I felt I had to be. I am definitely private. This is not something I would have brought out, but because someone brought it out unnecessarily in an email, I felt that I had to, of course, say something too. I have never once, nor would I ever, criticize anyone for using their time to take care of a sick family member. And I definitely resent any implication that I did so. Let us just agree that personal attacks and defenses must be kept out of this public forum. Our union deserves better than that. In the email on Friday, it was also insinuated that I am pro-administration and pro-board of trustees. This is ridiculous, but let's think it through together. First, this is a strategy that my opponent has used before in past elections. So this is part of the playbook, not based on anything in facts. Second, why would I be pro-administration? One of their goals is to minimize our salaries, and our benefits. In what alternate universe would I or any other union member side with the people trying to minimize our salaries and benefits? I understand the importance of the financial aspects of our contract. It is what I studied and what I teach. This is a good thing because if I am your president, I will protect you and your finances as I would my own. It is not pro-administration to challenge the current union strategy. Farron has challenged the union leadership in the past, and I don't think she considers herself to be pro-administration. I'm sure we can all agree on that. I'm running because I feel like the union's approach to the contract negotiation is partly responsible for the bargaining impasse. A healthy debate about strategy is part of the democratic process. And I'm glad that our union is a democracy where we hopefully have our own voices heard and not silenced by distractors. If I'm elected president, I will run a transparent union. If you think about it, I've already brought about some transparency since we really didn't hear much from the executive committee until my intention to run was known. Now we get frequent emails. Sometimes we get the same email twice in one day. For those who think I might be inexperienced, I have been working full-time for 30 years, no calculating my age. I worked in the corporate environment in banking, starting as a teller when I was in college and finishing off as the regional head of learning for the Americas in the alternative investment division. Alternative investments are private equity and hedge funds. I worked with people that are extremely intelligent, as I do now, and that are very cutthroat and driven by money. Working with these individuals, I can assure you, was a great training ground for anything I will encounter with the administration or the board of trustees. Eventually, I decided to move over to academia. I have not looked back. My last stop here is here at Nassau Community College. I've served on several committees, on the scholarship committee. I've served as secretary, and this is by far one of my favorite committees. It's directly related to finance. And being able to help deserving students with scholarships to help ease their financial burden is just an amazing perk of working here. I also serve on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The DEI committee has really expanded my knowledge in this area, and I try to implement it into my classes as much as possible. From my department, I'm an alternate on the P&B committee and the chair of the departmental OER committee. Teaching in a corporate environment was good. I love to teach.
Sorry, Tracy, your time is up.
Catherine, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I didn't want to be distracted. Okay, thank you, Tracy Ann. And Farron, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you to the Elections Committee, the tellers, and Professor Catherine Cho, who has been at the fore of organizing this forum. My name is Farron Siminoff. I have been a professor in the history department for 26 years. By way of background, I hold a PhD in American history, and I am also an attorney and a former contract negotiator. And I've had the honor of being your president for 17 months. While it's been a challenging 17 months, we are beginning to turn things around, beginning to rebuild. We are repositioning the union. We will and can see better days. It does take time. A decade of loss and erosion of the contract isn't turned around instantly, but let me outline where we are and how we get to those better days. First, despite working under an expired contract, we've been able to secure the 2022-23 faculty sabbaticals, and we've held on to ASEC's reassigned time, which is essential, I'm sure you all know, for our Middle States accreditation. Second, in the interest of bringing this faculty together, I established a junior faculty committee so their voice can be better heard. They are our future, and I was the one that established the DEI committee. Third, the NCCFT has become a visible union, whereas up to now, we have been pretty invisible in the county. We are beginning to see results. The county legislature is not happy with the college imposing the premium increases, and this, yes, will bear fruit for us. We are also building alliances with other county unions to make us stronger, our K through 12 brothers and sisters, and with the PBA. And we will be working with the PBA in the future. Fourth, I promised to get value from NICET, and I have. We have a new LRS, that's the labor representative, who not just meets with us, but he works with us. NICET Legal will be moving on ending these premium increases, as well as the retroactive premiums. NICET Communication, at our urging, has launched a social media campaign to promote community college enrollment and is highlighting our college. And something which can be a game changer for us is a bill that this union proposed, and with NICET's support, is pending before the state legislature. The bill, if passed, and I believe it will add an elected faculty trustee to our board. This promises to shift the dynamics on our board of trustees. Fifth, we are going into mediation. So why do I see this as promising? Because the college immediately agreed to a joint declaration of impasse and agreed on a mediator and scheduled the mediator's first available dates, which are in June. All signs pointing to the college wanting to get the contract done. Collective bargaining, yes, unfortunately, is about playing hardball. And at this point, they understand that the only contract we will accept is one that is fair and reasonable. Sixth, I promised that I would be transparent, and I have been. I communicate with everyone, chairs and individual members. Anybody that's ever sent me an email, texted me, made a phone call, had any kind of inquiry knows I answer everybody. And I answer people pretty immediately, and I move quickly to assist. I listen and I respond. As president, I'll continue listening and responding. And as always, I have your back. Yes, being the president of a union is about negotiating the contract, but it's also about maintaining the contract. It's also about those everyday things, protecting a member when she's been brought up on a disciplinary charge, working with the PNT and sabbatical committee to make the process better, or advise when there are questions, fielding inquiries from the chairs about interpreting the contract, and 1,000 small matters which arise daily, all which must be attended to. The union president must fully understand the contract, grievances, improper labor
30
practices,
seconds.
PERB, the court system, NICET, laws, MOA process. So I'm running for re-election to build on our momentum, to get a fair contract from which we begin to correct the shortcomings in this contract. It will position us for a better next contract as well. I'm running for re-election to be able to serve you every day as I have done for the last 17 months. And I am running for those better days that I know will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. Okay, the first question is going to be, Tracy will be responding to the first question. I'll read the first question. What have you done in the NCCFT to prepare you? What NCCFT mobilizing actions have you participated in? What NCCFT leadership roles have you had? What NCCFT committees have you been an active member in? Tracy? Tracy Ann? Oh, I think you're mute. Yeah.
Sorry, before I start, I didn't hear the 30-second warning before. I don't know, maybe I didn't say it, maybe I didn't hear it, but I would like it.
I did do it. Sometimes when the microphones compete, it's hard.
Okay, yeah, I didn't
If
hear
you
it.
want to
Thank you.
pin me, I can also like wave if that
Okay.
happens.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay. What have I done? I volunteered for the interview with the Long Island Herald. I participated in the letter writing campaign and attended and spoke at the BOT meeting in January. And I attended the Nassau County Legislature meeting that same month. Let's dissect these NCCFT mobilizing activities. In January, the college proposed a mask mandate because of the rising COVID numbers. Within hours, it was reversed because the politicians intervened. Within hours, our union keeps saying that politicians are going to save us, that they're going to help us get a fair contract. As recently as March 20th, we got an email that said we should go to the legislator meeting. Our lawyer feels strongly that these political actions strengthen our bargaining position. I may not be a lawyer, but I can tell you that the legislature has clearly told us they cannot help. Read the January legislator meeting minutes, watch the quick recap on News 12. They tell us state law does not provide us with any ability to intercede in a collective bargaining situation. They said they cannot interfere in a collective bargaining agreement. We have seen that when they believe in something, that they act fast. They told us that it's not in state, that the state law doesn't permit them to interfere, but we keep getting told that the politicians are going to save us. I went to the Board of Trustee meeting. My opponent was the first speaker, and she said that the board wasn't looking at her, and they definitely weren't, and they should be. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. They should be. But I was the last speaker, and it was different. They looked at me. They listened to me. Why was it different? As I was leaving the Board of Trustee meeting, another union member spoke to me, and they were talking about the politicians and getting them to try to help us. No one is blameless in this at all, the administration, the board, but also our union. They have personal grudges and vendettas that influence the way that they represent us. I've had many leadership roles in my life, but none have been with the NCCFT yet. While I think they are misguided, I am quite sure the executive committee works very hard. But what matters is results. They are the only executive committee to have 36-5 enacted, the healthcare thing, in almost 40 years. That can't be ignored. I don't have personal grudges or personal vendettas, even after this election. I will use my leadership experience that I gained over 30 years working in varied backgrounds to focus on getting us a fair contract as soon as possible. So if you support me, I promise you, I will be laser focused on getting us a good contract and getting it to us as fair as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. Farron?
From the time I started at NCC 26 years ago, I have been active in the union, from being my department's representative on the executive board to secretary on the NCCFT executive committee the FOIL officer, sometimes referred to as the FOIL queen, and now the president of the union. The union has been a constant in my life at the college. Preparation to be the president of the union requires a deep familiarity with the complexity of our college, such as our bargaining unit, the Senate, the chairs, the NCCFT sabbatical and P&T committees, the grievance procedure, PERB, which is, by the way, the Public Employee Relations Board, NICET, and just many, many other things. And remember, we are classroom, non-classroom, and professional faculty. And while many parts of the contract apply to all, as often as not, each of these units are under specific separate provisions. As the president of the union, you can't learn the contract on the job, but you have to come ready to be the contract administrator. The president of the union is our contract administrator and must make many quick decisions that will impact our rights. The union president must also understand how the college works. Embedded in our contract is our shared governance system. And while the union never, ever dictates to the Senate, it is the union's responsibility to safeguard the Senate. And over my 26 years, I have also been one of my department senators and have always been active on Senate committees and now instrumental in successfully negotiating their reassigned time. The president of the union must have a true understanding of the contract, how to interpret it, and how to apply it. When I became president, for example, our longtime office manager was retiring, and it fell to me to hire another office manager. Our office manager, Danielle, is wonderful, but she doesn't run the union. The president runs the union. This position does not lend itself to on-the-job training. The president of the union must be prepared to lead our complex and large union from day one, and I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. Okay, this question is for Tracy first. Explain why you think the PFU is an important as academic units in a bargaining agreement.
Awesome, thank you. To be honest, I really struggled with this question because it seemed too obvious. We're all pieces of the machine that runs the college. Each piece specializes in their own niche, and then we bring all those skills together to make it run. Just one part of our union can't run the college. We all need one another to make our college successful. There are so many important groups within the college and of course within PFU. But if we think about it, just a quick example, right? If admissions doesn't get our students in the door, then advisement can't help them register in classes. And then of course, classroom faculty have no one to teach. This connection and the recognition of this connection is key to our success. There are, of course, other important groups in PFU and throughout the college that are integrated into this puzzle too. I think this is something that we all know, but it isn't necessarily reflected in our contract. So unfortunately, this question was actually necessary. We need to make sure that PFU's unique needs are reflected in contract negotiations, just like all the other units. They should not be the last one on the list. Every unit is important, and every unit should be treated fairly and given opportunities that are beneficial for them. While speaking with some of you over the last few weeks, a few things became apparent to me. One thing was the lack of visibility by the current executive committee. That shouldn't be the case. We, of course, can't meet every day, but we should be able to meet on a more regular basis. People should know their executive committee and feel they can communicate with them openly. Not everything will be not everything will be resolved the way we want it to, but the effort and empathy are important too. Some raised issues with the promotion process. This is something that needs further investigation. When speaking with Dawn, she mentioned a Section 58 committee, which might be helpful with this initiative. She would like to review their findings and see if she can help move it further. I think it's a great idea and hopefully a step in the right direction. And our lawyer during the Google Meet forgot that the proposal had a 4-day work week and a remote option for non-classroom and PFU. If I'm elected your president, I will make sure your issues are front and center, just like every other unit in our union, and I will not forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Farron?
Did I unmute? Yes, I think I unmuted. Well, as you all know, there are 3 basic parts to our faculty bargaining unit, and each unit provides a discrete service to our students, which our students depend on to become and remain successful students. It's very easy to understand the classroom faculty. They're divided into academic departments and teach. That's an easy thing. But the PFU is a little more complex in many respects and more diffuse. There are admissions, registrar, advisement, ITS, financial aid, to mention a few. I understand, I do, that many in the teaching faculty often don't have a clear understanding of the PFU. And I think that over the years, this has led the PFU faculty to feel left out. We need to change that, and it's something I've been working towards. One of the changes I've made is to develop a strong relationship with the chair of PFU, Tom O'Byrne. Just as I communicate regularly with the chairs, and particularly the chair of chairs, Stu Kaplan, I communicate with Chair O'Byrne. He's not an afterthought, which means that PFU is not an afterthought. I consider him to be a campus leader, and I keep him in the loop of all campus leaders, and that means that PFU is also in the loop. I believe strongly that we're all interconnected, teaching, non-classroom, professional faculty. One cannot exist without the other, and my actions have always demonstrated this. I have mentioned at other meetings and in emails that the concerns of PFU are in our proposals, and they will be in the persuasive arguments we are crafting for the mediator to demonstrate why the college needs and wants to hold on to its professional faculty and grow it. There is no way for this college to successfully sustain itself without the professional faculty. And I've crafted proposals which reflect that professional faculty are as important as instructional and non-classroom faculty. We all need to think of ourselves as part of a whole. And as we all know, the whole only flourishes when all its parts do. We are equal in this bargaining unit. Let me just for a minute say something about this committee. You know, unfortunately, the committees that have been established in the past to address PFU and the problems with its promotional path have not been successful.
30 seconds.
And I think this is something we simply must negotiate. And I am going to, in mediation, really press hard for doing that now, not waiting for another do-nothing committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. Okay, the next question, Tracy will answer first. Please describe your experience negotiating collective bargaining agreements and any experience you have representing or assisting union members in grievance proceedings and or litigation.
So, as my opponent mentioned in the previous question, this is not an on-the-job learning position, but for all my opponent's experience, we all sit here without a contract since August 31st of last year and with 36-5 enacted. So here we are with a lawyer as our president and a lawyer that we pay for and no contract. I checked the union records. We have paid the lawyer $71,000 already. Now that we are in mediation, those charges will most likely accumulate even faster. Remember our good news mediation email? It said that both parties agreed to mediation, but I asked you to recall the general faculty meeting on Thursday during the Q&A session. Farron said more than once, then come back to the negotiating table to talk to us. So why would we be asking them to come back to the table? That tells me the college walked away from us. That is not good news. Mediation is a process. It suggests solutions. We have been told the meetings won't start till June, and that was just reaffirmed. Do we know when the mediator goes on vacation? Mediation is not a quick process. It will take a few months. All that time, we will be paying those healthcare premiums. And what if we don't have a contract by next January? Healthcare premiums tend to go up every single year. The Board of Trustees will be charging us even more healthcare premiums next year if we don't have a contract. Some people have expressed that we shouldn't make a change now that we're in the middle of negotiations. That's exactly why we should change. We are in the middle of failed negotiations. We know that Farron does not believe that because years ago, she ran against Debbie DeSantis when we were in the middle of contract negotiations. So obviously she does not see that as an issue. Beyond all that, who is the lead negotiator right now? It's not our current president, it's our lawyer, Beth Margolis. She is the lead negotiator. Beth works for our union, not the executive committee. If I am fortunate enough to win, I will work with the same lead negotiator and the same NICET labor relations specialist. My bargaining experience is from the corporate world, which is in some ways harder. There is no contract. We are employees at will. Then, when I worked in corporate, no union strength at all. Management dealt purely with the bottom line. During good times, they let us hire lots of people. Once the bad times hit, I spent most of my time fighting to protect my people. My team was responsible for career management. We helped with grievances, headcount, workload, promotion issues. Our division was given an allotment of year-end ratings. That determined our raises. So you can imagine the war that ensued every single year. And I fought for my team then. And if I become the head of this team, then I will fight for us in the exact same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Farron?
Oh, well, that was not a very accurate description of collective bargaining negotiations or mediation, but that would be, a whole lecture on the collective bargaining process and mediation, and we don't have time for that. But I am a contract lawyer by training. I've negotiated many contracts. I understand the cues and signals each side sends out, which is why I feel confident that in mediation, we will get a fair contract. If the contract was not eager to mediate, they would have refused to file a joint declaration of impasse or been difficult about the selection of the mediator. That's what people do, what a side does when they don't want to go into mediation. They were not. And this is a signal that they too, at this point, want a contract. So prior to this contract, I was president of the 2013 and 14 negotiations. And just to correct a fact, because I do like facts and history, when I ran for the presidency during that time period, we had already come to an agreement on the contract with the college. Anyway, I saw at that time how one-sided these negotiations were. The college came in with its outside counsel, 1 to 2 assisting attorneys, and the college's in-house counsel. The union had only its faculty members and NICET LRS. It was kind of a David against Goliath match, except Goliath won. It brought us the 2-tiered health insurance system we have today. And at the time, I alerted the faculty and the executive committee that this was a bad compromise, that it would be destructive in the long run. But the college at that time threatened the union with invoking that long dormant healthcare clause, and the union capitulated. And now we live with the results of that. So whether it was an agreeing to section 36-5, that's that horrible healthcare provision that was put into the contract in 1982, or agreeing to sunset after sunset, or the many problematic MOAs that we now live with. It was not the bad faith of our negotiators, but just simply a lack of inexperience. And I understand and still believe that we need a seasoned attorney, and we have hired one. It makes a level playing field for us. Knowledge of grievances and the grievance process are also essential for the union president. There are also improper labor practices. that can and often be brought in front of PERB, as well as possible Article 78 suits in New York Supreme and other actions in law and equity. I have experience with all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. The next question, Farron will answer first. What lessons can be learned from our failure to make progress at this point? And what strategic adjustments will you make to help move negotiations in the right direction?
You know, we have made progress. I know it doesn't feel that way from the outside. I understand that. But the college and the union, as I've mentioned, have come to agreements on many, many items, and it was discussed at the meeting with our attorney. But I think one of the reasons for the phrasing of this question is because a lot of people don't remember an active negotiation. We really haven't been in active negotiations in almost a decade. So I think we've forgotten that collective bargaining agreements take time. And instead, what we've seen have been a series of a couple of contracts that we've basically capitulated with almost no negotiations, half steps, no steps, or like in our last contract, 1% and a half step. And we believe now that if it's not done quickly, we have failed. But the fact is, union contracts take time and perseverance and the need for a bit of nerve. I understand the college has believed that because we wouldn't capitulate, as the union has done over and over again for the years, to some very bad contracts, that they decided to take this draconian step. So let me remind you of what they want. They want a 2-year contract with a hard freeze in year 1 and 1% and no steps in year 2, 20% healthcare payment, which would be a $7,700 permanent pay cut. And they want to remove our chairs, amongst other unacceptable proposals. Your willingness to take part in union events and actions have told them that financial blackmail is not their trump card. And this is why they've been willing to go immediately into mediation when they could have drawn out the process longer. Answering the union's calls to action will and is turning things in the right direction. We need to continue to stand firm. And I believe, and I'm very confident, that this mediation will result in a fair contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. Okay, Tracy?
Thank you. So I guess what pops into my head with this question is, what is it that possibly has changed things? So why now? Why is it that the college is taking such a hard line with us, right? We just discussed that. All of a sudden, they have these draconian measures. We heard the lawyer say in that Zoom meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she said in something like 28 years, she's never seen such a push from an institution to really hold back and not give anything. And that's the why now. Why now? What has changed? We know our leadership has changed, right? And Farron is extremely good at stirring the pot. And that is something that we often need, right? We need to stir the pot. We need to get angry. We need to kind of, push through. And that is important. I'm not discounting that at all. But we also need someone who can build those relationships. A leader is not someone that just stirs the pot. It's someone that's good at relationship building, that's accountable, that exhibits innovation and creativity, that motivates, in particular, their team. They're good at decision making and conflict management and negotiation and critical thinking. So we all should ask ourselves, is this what we see right now? Is this really going to take us to that next level? And why? Why are they pushing back all of a sudden so hard? And we can say that past contracts weren't great. They weren't. But right now, the current executive committee offered a 6% premium offered for us to pay 6% of our premium for healthcare coverage. This is a whole different contract negotiation. This is not, okay, you get a little increase and you get the half step. This is them going for our jugular. Why are they doing that right now? I think we all know the answer to that. We know that they have not had a cordial relationship between these units. That does not mean rolling over for people.
30
but being
seconds.
cordial, thank you, is important. We need to keep that in our minds. We need to treat people the way we want to be treated. Calling people out, saying that they should resign is not necessarily going to get them in a great mood when it comes to contract negotiations. So I would think of doing things a little bit different, establishing those relationships, not being cozy, but establishing relationships where we can talk with one another and build some type of trust so we have open communication. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. The next question, Tracy will answer first. What do you think are the long-term issues facing our faculty as a union, and how will you address these? What are your specific qualifications that make you the best candidate?
I'm sorry. I know I was told I would go first for the opening, the first question, and the closing, but I'm going to go first for everything except one question.
We're alternating.
I went first for the opening, the first, the second, and the third question. Farron did the fourth question.
Farron should open. You haven't alternated.
I'm sorry, what? Me?
Catherine, we have not been alternating.
I mean, if Tracy wants me to answer the next question first,
Yeah, I mean, either way is fine.
it's fine. I don't care.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's-
Farron.
So understanding we're part of a larger picture in the world of higher ed. We need to do that. That most colleges, unless you're working at one of the Ivy Leagues, are definitely having problems. So we need to be a little bit nimble and anticipate changes and try to adjust our contract to meet these challenges. And that's something actually we're trying to do in this contract. Convince our college that they need to see flexibility as something that's good. And we know that, sometimes people have a hard time changing their ways. Another problem is that we face in the future, and certainly now, is the aging population in Nassau County. But there are some silver linings for enrollment for us despite that. Our students tend to stay in the county and become part of the workforce of the future as nurses, accountants, business owners, teachers, which are desperately needed. This is a selling point with the county for this college, and we need to get this message out to the county. It will assist us to reposition the union in the political arena and with the public. So we need to sell ourselves as a value added for the county. We also need to remember and act as if the contract is a long-term project, because it is. It sits on an old framework. The framework for the contract is 50 years old. So our goal is how to steadily make it better. We have to remove contract by contract many of the sunsets. We must enforce the contract regularly. A lot of this has been in the past, just sunsetting things, conceding to things, and collectively, it has caused us to have this very weak contract. It's one of the reasons why the college believes that they can just demand anything they want. And let's understand that a lot of these demands the college has made over and over again. And we have capitulated over and over again and made our contract worse and worse. And that's why we're here now, because there's almost nothing left to give up in this contract. I have all the skills to do this job, both as a lawyer and someone with 26 years of experience serving at the college in many capacities, Senate, union, department level. I don't need on-the-job training. I am qualified to be the contract administrator. Thank you.
Thank you, Farron. Tracy?
Great, thank you. So when we think about what is important for our college in the future, of course, one of the things that's going to pop into all of our heads is job security, right? Job security is, I know, a worry for me. I think about the idea that enrollment is going down, and it definitely causes me concern, like I'm sure it has caused all of you. We did have that nice little small drop last semester. So this semester rather, where we were only down, I think it was 0.66%. Unfortunately, as of today, the summer semester is down a bit more significantly as of the same time last year. So hopefully that will not be a problem and it will bounce back. But at the moment, we have to think about those projected budget deficits. If they happen, of course, they're very concerning. Even if we get more money for the county for a year or two and the deficits continue, we have to worry about big changes on our campus. We also need new faculty in targeted areas, in particular in departments that have classes that have been canceled because of lack of instructors. Of course, that impacts our enrollment. Enrollment is one of our biggest issues. Increasing enrollment helps secure that job security. While I wasn't here back then, I have heard how different things were when there were lots of students on campus. The more we increasing enrollment, we all know logically, the more things will improve for us. So hopefully we can keep things going in that right direction and reverse what's happening right now with the summer. We can't run as a slate, but Dawn, Sean, and I are definitely all like-minded. We have the same goals. If we're elected, we will exhibit professionalism and restore respect to the union. Acting President Kanzati was not correct in this, but she didn't even turn around and address our executive committee at the meeting last week, or yeah, it was last week. The respect is not there, whether it's warranted or not, whether it's right or not. That is what's happening. When we think about specific skills, at HSBC, I gained important skills for a union leader. I managed the learning needs for over 1,000 people in locations across the Americas, so North America, South America, and the Caribbean. My team was responsible for career management. We were worried about people's careers, and that is something that will really help with our diverse union and trying to define our members' needs for the future. Relationship building was essential because I didn't work with people next to me. We were in different locations throughout the hemisphere. So establishing trust and communication was the only way I could be an effective leader. Part of that is listening to people and actually hearing them. I talk, but I always make sure I am listening.
Your time is up.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. So they'll be closing 2 minutes each. Tracy will start.
Okay, so when we think about what's happening on our campus right now, I know the current executive committee is working hard. I don't in any way, shape, or form think that they are, just kind of giving it all up. I'm quite sure they are. But we do know that there are some root issues. We know as members of this union, the way we feel things have been changing. There is definitely an atmosphere of distrust. There is not open communication. We have to worry about when we send an email, who is going to pounce and start kind of tearing it apart. On Friday, I was called, I think, silly and childish. It wasn't by Farron. I'm not blaming it on Farron, but we do know that that is part of the atmosphere that's kind of being stirred up right now. That is not good for us emotionally, mentally. All that is not good for us. I am running not because it was in my life plan. I am running because I think I can make a change. I think I can build relationships with people, not because I'm pro-administration, because I can communicate effectively, and I have done it in the past. I had a successful career working with people across the Western Hemisphere. Oh, I think I screwed that up. No, Western Hemisphere. And I know I can do it If I can do it in an industry like the hedge fund and private equity industry, I can definitely do it with our administration and our board of trustees. I can reach a point where we are cordial with one another and we're not speaking disrespectfully and we're not acting disrespectfully to one another. Being responsible and being respectful does not mean that we're a pushover. I can assure you, I would not have made it in that industry if I wasn't someone who was able to stand up for myself and my team and make sure that they were being treated not just okay, but being treated well. So I know this is something that I can do
Thank you,
for our
Tracy. Your time is
union.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Farron?
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the Elections Committee for setting this up and to all of you for this opportunity. Voting will open on April 10th. This election gives you, the faculty, an opportunity to build on the progress we're making. Professor Ayala and her slate want to turn back the clock. They believe that appeasement is the way to go, and it will get us a good contract. Honestly, I wish it were so. If it were, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But that tactic, as we all know, from the sunsets, lag pays, half steps, wage freezes, and dismal wage increases over the past decade is the bitter fruit of that strategy. That template was not sustainable and sadly has led us to where we are today. The losses in our contract have been so great that now the college has gone in for the proverbial kill because it's all that's left. Standing firm for a fair contract is what we must do now. We must remain united. Believe, as I do, that constant loss is not inevitable. We must stay the course. Collective bargaining is difficult. It's a little painful at times. I know that. It doesn't happen overnight when you're really negotiating. We can and are rebuilding this union. And for those who say it's too much to ask, I say they have given up. I have the stamina and will to get us a fair contract. And then we will be on the road to a brighter future. I believe that better days are ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Farron, and thank you, Tracy. Okay, so we conclude the President Position Forum.